Okay, so today in this video, we'll be looking at conditional behaviors. And while we do that, also pay some attention to how to break a problem down into easily solvable pieces. The challenge for today, the problem that we're trying to solve, will be creating a bouncing ball that changes color every time it bounces. Okay, so I'm going to start from the top with the thought process. A bouncing ball. That tells me that I need at least a ball. Okay, so I'm going to go to the hierarchy window and create a sphere object in my scene, reposition it 5 units up and 0 units on the X and Z, and also rename it. And also, for the ball to bounce, it needs something to bounce against. Okay, so that's why I'm going to create a floor object. So call it floor, reposition it. Okay. In order for the ball to bounce, it needs to fall first. Okay, so we then need to attach a rigid body, which gives the object physical behaviors. While this use gravity option is ticked, it's going to react to the gravitational force in the scene. So now you can see it falls down. Okay, so next, let's say I want it to bounce. Oops, there is no component that can provide that behavior. So we need to make a script. Okay, and I'm gonna call this bounce behavior. Okay, once that's created, I'm gonna open it up in my script editor. Okay, so what should we write in the script then? This will require us to further break down the problem of the bounce. How do we create the bounce? We already know that the rigid body component is responsible for moving the object under the effect of a force being applied to it. So if we think about it, the bounce is actually just falling in reverse, right? Falling is moving downwards, a bounce is moving upwards. So by that logic, we know that somehow we need to control the rigid body component in this script. And the way to do that is we need to make a variable. I'm going to call it bBall. And once the object is loaded into memory, I'm going to assign the rigid body component to this variable. Okay. Now that we have control over the rigid body component inside the script, we then need to think about when we should use it. Okay, and the logic is that we would want to push the ball upwards when it collides with the floor. Okay, and the code for that is there is a function called onCollisionEnter, and this function is called whenever the collision happens. Okay, then you might ask at this point, well, how am I supposed to know that this function exists? How am I supposed to know exactly how to type it in like this? Okay, that is a good question, and it is the point of this exercise, is that as long as you arrive at the conclusion that at this stage of solving the problem, what you need to do is to find a way to detect collision, then you're all good. Because if you know that you need to detect a collision, a simple Google search, how to detect collision in Unity, and the first 3 answers, the first 3 links will tell you exactly how to do it and how to use that function, onCollisionEnter. So you can go off and read about this function on your own, but in this exercise, what we're trying to focus on is the thought process of breaking down a problem. Okay, so in here, when the collision happens, I would want to push the ball upwards. So I'm gonna say rball.addForce. Okay, and it's going to be an upward force, up. Okay, and the force mode I want to set to impulse. Okay. On top of that, the reason that we're doing the bounce through the script is because we want more control over it, right? So we would want a number that controls how bouncy the ball is. So we're going to make a public variable, public, because we want to control the value of this variable in Unity rather than having to come back to the script every single time. I'm going to call this bounce power. And we're going to multiply the upward vector by the bounce power. Okay, if we save the script, go back to Unity, and on the ball object, we should have a bounce power now. Just gonna say 5 and play the game. Okay, now the ball bounces with a bounce power of 5 every time it touches the floor. Moving on to the next problem, which is to change its color. We then need to create material for the ball. So in the project window, right click, create, and find material. Okay, I'm gonna call this material ball, and if we click on this M ball, in the inspector window, there's a bunch of properties we can change. Right now we're just interested in the first one, the albedo value. So if we change this, you can see it changes color. Okay, so if we select the ball and go to its mesh renderer component, and under that we have materials, we have element 0. Right? If we click on the circle and then choose the M ball we just created, now we've changed this color. Again, it's less about knowing how to do this, and it's more about knowing what to do next. Okay, if you know that you want to change the color of something, again, a simple Google search will tell you exactly how. So now we've attached the material to the ball. Let's find out how we can control it in the script. So very similar to how we control the rigid body component in the script, we can do the same thing for the mesh renderer. Okay, we make a variable, we assign the component to the variable, and then we change the properties of that component when the condition is met. So when the collision happens. So over here I can say mr ball dot material dot color equals to random dot color hue saturation value. Okay, needs the brackets. And if we save the script, go back to Unity and play the game. There we go. A ball that bounces and changes color with every bounce. So to summarize, we've just looked at how conditional behaviors can be created, and also the thought process behind breaking down a problem into manageable pieces, so that you're more likely to get an answer from other people or online sources because your question is simple. Okay, so until next time, hope you guys have some fun with problem solving, and bye.